Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for another PI user group session. We are based in New Zealand, but this session is like live. We even have someone from Mexico, Fernando from Mexico, joined us, which is fantastic. Today we are fortunate enough to have Henk and Mitchell, both from Netherlands. It is morning their time, it is evening our time, and Fernando joined us from like Mexico at midnight. So kind of covering the entire globe. Beside me, we have David, Horrocks, and Indira Bandari and Leila, who is not here in this session, running this user group together. If you have any questions, feel free to write it in the chat window here, or if you are watching us live through LinkedIn, YouTube, anything like that, feel free to just comment there. We'll pass your questions to our phenomenal speakers, and that's me. Here you go, Hank and Mitchell, off to you to a good start. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much.
Thank
so
you.
let's start something. Don't you think so? Welcome.
Sure, you start, Hank.
I'll start. Yes.
Just before you start, Reza, did you start the recording? Okay, thanks.
So let me introduce you to our moderator. She does a perfect job, and she will add all your questions in the chat to us. And she watches the video, so that's very important because I always forget that. Welcome on this 2-hour session. Let me introduce Michiel Roosma. That's the one on the other on the side of the camera. We are not together. We're working in different spaces, but we're working together in Quanto, and Quanto is our company. Michiel is a data platform MVP, and he used to work with Microsoft. To be very honest, he is the one who knows everything about DAX. So getting involved with us means that we're highly leaning on Power BI, and we're focusing very much on how to get good results if you are doing Power BI. Michiel is around business for about more than 25 years, and he is a top consultant in Power BI. So that's Michiel. I don't know if Michiel wants to say something about me.
Sure. Okay, this is Henk, the one who is on the other video stream. Henk is also a data platform MVP. Actually, he's been that for a longer time than I was just renewed for the second time. And Henk is MVP since, actually, I don't remember, 2013 or so. So Henk has a years-long career in Excel, and has been working on Power BI and its predecessor since 2010, actually. We met when I was looking for a well-known Excel person to help me launch Power Pivot for Excel in the Netherlands at the time. So that's where we met. And Henk has been working as a trainer and an Excel consultant, and now a Power BI consultant and Power BI trainer. So on the right of this slide, you see a couple of things that we do. So we have our company Quanto. We organize something like a Power BI summer school, which is a nice pet project of ours. Actually spending 3 days with a couple of people in a hotel and going really deep on Power BI while enjoying the beach and the sun. So would be nice to do this in New Zealand as well. I'm sure you have a lot of nice beaches and coastline. So, but anyway, we wrote a couple of books, and we are also founders of the Dutch Power BI user group. So next
slide.
Next slide. Okay, so what we want to talk about today is about visualizations and navigation in Power BI reports. But let's just start with some higher level discussion on what do we want to do Power BI or use Power BI for? And the grand theme here is that what Power BI enables is data-driven business transformation. And what do I mean with that? We want to improve our business, our organizations, based on insights that come from data. So in this picture here, you can see in the left bottom that it all starts with data. Obviously, from the data we want to generate insights. Insight as such, it's nice to know, but what you really want is insights that are actionable. So you want to take action, you want to improve things, you want to change things based on those insights. And when you take action, when you do things based on those insights, what you really want to do is to measure and see, do our actions have any effect on our business? So, and in doing that, you generate new data. So whether it is measuring things, or you say, okay, but we say some people have to do something and they have to actually register what they're doing, so they provide feedback to the system. So everything generates new data, and that closes the circle in some way. And actually going through that over time, you are able to innovate and to really improve your business based on data. Now, looking at the complete Power Platform, that's a couple of tools that you can use to actually implement this data insights action and feedback loop, consisting of Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. But looking into Power BI specifically, it focuses really on the left part of this picture. And could you proceed to the next slide, please? So what we developed over the years is a very simple framework to talk about everything related to business intelligence. So this is really how to get from data to insights. And I want to spend a couple of minutes to go through this. It's a very simple framework. We call it the 5-layer model. I think it's obvious why we did that. And it describes at a high level which steps you have to take to go from raw data to insights and to actionable insights. So let's go through them for a bit. So starting at the bottom here, obviously that data that you want to use is somewhere. It is in systems, it's in files, it could be on the internet, it could be generated from sensor networks. It could be all kinds of different types of data, different structures of data, different sources of data. So what you need to do is to connect to those data. Could everyone please mute their microphones, because
sorry to interrupt. Can you mute your microphone if any of you are not muted? Just mute your microphone, please.
Yes.
Benny is the one who is not muted.
Okay, I guess he's muted now. Yep.
Okay.
Things are good. Sorry to interrupt. Yep, please go ahead.
No problem. Okay, so connecting to your source data that you want to use to generate insights is it's not easy. It's a hard thing to do already. And if you do that, you will find that all your data is not really yet in a form that you can analyze it to create insights. So typically you will need a lot of preparation to do that. Henk, can I make one more request to you?
Yes.
Could you
Always.
please get rid of that ugly black cursor in the middle there? You see that? Or is it just me?
That's just you.
Oh, okay.
I don't
Strange.
have a cursor over here. No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right. Okay.
I will really
That's
help you.
just me, probably. You can see it as well. Henk, it's you.
It's me, but I don't see anything. So how can I remove anything which is not there?
Okay, well, yeah, there it goes. Now
Yeah,
it's
well,
moving. Yeah,
I'll
okay,
move it
thank
away.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so the next step here is to work with your data to put that in a format that is feasible for analyzing the data. It is, and we call that prepare. It is about transforming, it's about cleansing data, and it's also about combining data from different sources, which, as you probably all know, can be really a hell of a job. These two bottom layers are very important, but unfortunately, they don't really provide business value because they're not providing insights. But you need to go through them. But if you have gone through them, then you have nice, formatted, well-defined data sets. And then the fun starts, because then you can start thinking about analyzing, which means that you think about in what way you want to actually slice through all that data, and what you really want to see. And this comes down to creating analytical models, structuring your data for analysis, and also adding calculations. And if you have done that, then it becomes even more fun, because then you can start thinking about visualizing your data. Now we will come back to that in a minute, why visualization is important. But you will all understand that you need to create some output of your analysis to be able to work with that. Okay, so and the last layer, the top layer, is sharing, meaning that when I have created some insights, you want those insights to arrive at the people that need those insights, and reversely, you don't want those important insights and valuable insights to get into the hands of the people that shouldn't know that. So it's also about security and how to share things securely. Now, this is not a Power BI specific model. It's very generic. It's very high level, and you can use this in many ways. We're not going to cover all those applications of this model, but keep in mind that if you are used to do things in Excel, somehow you go through exactly the same layers here. Problem with Excel typically is that you're not really having layers. Everything is mixed up. I
do not agree with you.
What?
You can make those layers within an Excel model, but we're not going to talk about that.
Actually, Henk has become famous with an approach to professionally working with Excel, which is one of the sources that we base this 5-layer model. But on the other hand, if you create an enterprise BI system with SQL Server or Azure Synapse or whatever, still you have to go through these layers. And indeed, with Power BI. Power BI is a beautiful platform to actually implement each of those layers. And many people, when they hear about Power BI, they think, hey, that's a nice visualization platform. But really, Power BI is an end-to-end platform that you can use to connect your source data, to prepare your data, to create analytical models, to create beautiful visualizations on top of that, and to also, obviously, as a platform to share insights with others. So We're going to focus today on really this visualization layer. What we want to do here is discuss with you a couple of things typical for Power BI. The nature of Power BI reports, nature of Power BI visualizations, and we will go really deep into a couple of specific features of the Power BI visualization platform. We will also add some sprinkles of DAX, because DAX is nice and cool and very important for the Power BI platform. And it's one of my favorites, so
Okay.
always add that. Nothing without DAX. Okay. So with that,
There's one question. There's one question before you.
Oh, there's a question.
Before you proceed, Mohit is asking: is there a way in Power BI to further analyze data if it is connected to multi-dimensional model, the analysis services model?
Well, the answer is yes, there is. There are actually a couple of answers, and honestly, I'm not sure if all the answers are answers that I can share, actually. We have a couple of MVPs in the session, so they may confirm that. So one of the things is typically that an analytical model in Power BI or SSAS. You're asking about SSAS multidimensional?
Yes.
Multidimensional, okay. So what you have to realize is that the technology used for a Power BI analytical model, which is exactly the same technology that is used for an SSAS tabular model, is something completely different from a multidimensional model. Without going into too much the technology of tabular and multidimensional, but typically multidimensional was invented. So OLAP cubes were invented at the time we only had relational database technology. And in some way, it is a solution to the fact that relational databases are really bad in aggregating data. And if you want to create insights, if you want to do reporting, typically what you need is to aggregate data, right? So if I have 10 million sales transactions, I'm not interested in the amount for each individual sales transaction. No, I'm interested in the total amount, or the total amount per year, or total amount compared to the total amount of last year, etc., etc. The relational databases are just not good in doing that. OLAP cubes or multidimensional models were a solution to that at the time, which basically comes down that that we calculate all those aggregations beforehand, so that when you look at the report, that you only have to retrieve those aggregated values from the OLAP cube. And if you compare that to a tabular model or a Power BI model, really the strength and the revolutionary innovation in that is that here we have a system or a database, you may call it, that is really, really good at aggregating data. And that means that we don't have to calculate anything up front. We calculate those aggregations just in time when, as a user, you look at a report. So everything is aggregated on the spot. And that means that the structure of those models and the way they work is totally different, making it well, probably very hard to combine those two things together, and it really doesn't really make sense. What you could do is use a multidimensional model as a data source for building your tabular or Power BI model. And that means that you would put your multidimensional model in this bottom connect layer in a way. You retrieve data from that. You could do some transformation.
Yes.
So, but it's not really possible to extend a multidimensional model with DAX or.
Shall we continue with visualizations? We're running out of time.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So, are there other questions? Because it's a very interesting topic, but we are here for visualizations.
No. Yeah, no more questions for now.
For now, okay. No more questions. Thank you very much.
Let's do visualizations. Thank you.
Yes, let's do visualizations. Let me talk a little bit. In full site reports, one of the many differences between Power BI and, for instance, Excel, and I'm coming from an Excel world, but I know a little bit about that, is that interaction is something which is not, let's say, that good implemented in Excel. If you're working in Excel in a classic way, and you don't use anything like a pivot table, you got something like control things, which can control a little bit what you're going to see, but it's a static output. When it comes out, there are the numbers, or there's your graph. And it changed a bit with the pivot tables, and it changed much more when they introduced something like slicers. But you're still looking at numbers or graphs that are not that much connected to all other kinds of data. It also has to do with the structure of Excel, which is just largely using one big table, and Power BI using a relational system means that you have much, much more in-depth. And there's another difference between Excel and Power BI if you look at visualizations. In Excel, I got something like a sheet which has more than 1 million rows and 260 columns, and I got plenty of room and space to place all what I want to see in just one sheet. And if one sheet's not enough, just copy a couple of sheets and then continue. So with Power BI, you have the possibility of creating multiple pages, and we will do that. But looking at that kind of things, it means that my canvas in which I'm displaying is completely different. And there's also something else. Power BI, the canvas of Power BI in which you make your visualizations is much more prepared on showing graphs. It's not that good in showing numbers, it's good in showing graphs. And going from that way on, you need to keep in mind that visualization using in Power BI is completely different than in Excel. And one of the nicest parts you have in Power BI is the way that you can down drill on certain levels of the hierarchy. So if I have an Excel pivot table and I see a line which says this is my sales for January, and I want to see what are my sales for that moment, I can just double click on that row, and Excel will create a new sheet for me, and in that sheet I will find the records on which that line has been made. That's quite a rudimental part, because it's not connected to it, so it's not dynamically updated. When I update my pivot table, that page is not updated at the same moment. It's just one way. I cannot show anything more. So looking in that way of visualizations, in Power BI, you're much more looking at my visualization. How do I interact with my visualization? So if I got one page, how am I able to change the visualization I have in what I would like to see at that moment? So for instance, if I got my normal sales and I'm looking for a little bit further and I want to see my year-to-date sales or my rolling 12-month sales, I should not be clicking to another sheet, but I can also change the visualization into that what I want to have. Well, this kind of way of working visualizations means that you're really working compact and try to find ways from where you go to what you want to see. Having said that, means that you're most focused on how do I interact with my visualization. Keep in mind that if you make a report, that making a report for a financial director is something else than creating a report for an HR director. People who are working in finance are used to numbers. HR are used mostly to graphs, and you need to find a balance in what do I want to show to both of them. So looking at that, I think we'll take a little.
Yeah, maybe I can add one thing to this, because the reason there's a fundamental reason why this is very important, and that is that indeed when you show a lot of information, you don't really get insights, right? But visualizing your results is a good way to turn information into insights. But the thing is that every insight you provide to someone will lead to a new question. So if I tell you, well, hey, we have a company and we sold $1 million more last week than expected, your first response will be, hey, that's cool. And your second response will be, but how come? And what did we sell? And what region or what customer? So you get new questions. You need that interaction to be able to answer that next question. So you will get into from simple reporting to really analyzing your results in a very natural way.
So we go to the demo?
Yeah, let's show something.
Here we go. So this is our demo. And it's just, as you can see, one page. And it looks like one page, but there are multiple pages on this. And we got a couple of things over here. For instance, we're using slicers over here on the left side to change by period, to change to year to date, to change to the 12-month rolling total. And we got some basic things in. We expect from you that some of the techniques we're showing are familiar to you, because this is an advanced visualization session. So we talk about things like a custom visual like this, but we also talk about drill-throughs, and we expect that you know the techniques to create those things. If you don't have knowledge of these techniques, well, there are a lot of videos on internet which will show you how to create a custom visual and how to create a drill-through. So for us at this moment, we'll do not discuss how to create those things, but we just show you a little bit about how those visualization works. So basically, one of the easiest way of showing things are those little drill up, drill down buttons, and using those. That's the wrong one. I'll get somewhere over here, and I'm able to go back over here, and so I'll change my view to the ones I really want to show. And coming with that, that's the easiest part, because that's just in a visualization, drop a couple of extra rows in it. It's not the rows, but it's the axis, and then it will work. Basically, you got a little bit of a drill through if I select something, and then you can see that I can view 3 American details. And if I click on this one, I'll go to another view, and in this view I'll see practically the same, but now I'm seeing my team details. Here I have the same thing. If I hover over it, I got my custom visual And I got a back button to go back to my starting page. This is a bit of a way of how visualization works. There is a lot of things more in it in this demo, but for now I think we'll keep to.
Well, maybe it's nice to actually mention that because you were very quick on on the last part. Right. It's a fairly new feature in Power BI reports to have a drill through action on a button. So this little text here down here is really a button, which becomes active whenever you select one of the teams in the chart above, enabling you to jump to another page with additional information on a team level. So. And that was introduced, I think, in March or something.
Something like it, yeah. March this year. That's true. Yeah.
It's actually nice because you can well, as you see, you can change you can make the text on the button dynamic. You can have different tooltips depending on the status. So if you hover over this, you have this view details tooltip, and if you haven't selected a team, so Henk, if you deselect that team there, you will have a different tooltip. It says, okay, select a team or a division before that. Right, so and that is well, one additional action that was added to buttons in Power BI reports earlier this year, which I like very much because it makes a drill through so much more discoverable for the average report user than it was before.
Yes, the main problem
indeed it's a button with the action type drill through. You need to implement the drill through first to be able to do that, of course. It's a nice thing to do.
The main
what you also see is a report page tooltip, as it's called, but we will go into that later on.
Yes, the main thing here is if you have a lot of drill throughs, you have a lot of buttons, and a button takes place on your space, so you need to be careful whether you use this one or another thing. For me, this one is very nice to use because if I use this one with a button, I can just click over here and I'll be where I want to be without having something like the right mouse button click to select the drill through. So it's more a matter of how you look at things and how you want to create your form and how user-friendly you want to be. But the button indeed is very nice. So having said this, continue where we are?
Yeah, let's go back to the slides for a bit.
We go back to the slides for a bit. So we take the next slide. And this one.
Yeah, let me talk about types of interactivity in reports on a bit more conceptual level, because well, actually over the years the features of visual reports have increased tremendously, so it's not always easy to keep track of whatever you can do. So there's well, one helpful way to look at this is that there are a couple of types of interactivity, and if you look at the next slide here, I think.
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Just click.
First type is yeah. I command you to click onto the next slide. Okay. So the first type is interaction within a visual, and you already saw that. We have the drill down and drill up functionality, and it's really something that is done within an individual visualization. Not entirely true, I must say, because one other effect of drill down and drill up is that you can use that drill down action also to change other visuals on the same page. But basically, what you're doing is go up and go down in the visual. And of course, if you look at interaction within a single visual, there are also specific visualization types that offer their own interactivity. Well, very simple one is if you use a map visual, you can just zoom in on the maps. And a very fun one to use is also on the chatter chart. There's a play axis, which if you add, for instance, dates or months, there you can have actually a play button, and you can play that, click that, and see your data animated. So this is the first type of interaction in Power BI reports, interaction within a visual. And the next type, it's probably, what, you want to add something, Hank? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
No?
Hold on, it's too fast, this one.
Yeah, okay. So the next type, it's probably the easiest one, the one that you encountered as the first interaction in a report. Whenever you create a page with multiple visualization objects, you will start noticing that they interact with each other. So you can click on any data point in a visual, and the other visuals on the page will respond to that action. Well, in this static example here, if you click on a column in the top right chart, it will have its effect on the other two charts there. The bottom right chart is a visual of an interaction called highlight, so you will still see the total visual, but you get the results corresponding to your selection in a somewhat brighter color. And the other type of interaction that you can set is that, and well, you cannot see that here, but is that the complete visual will be filtered based on the selection that you make. So that's the second type of interaction. And the third type of interaction is interaction between pages in a report. So if you have multiple pages, you can also have interactivity between those. And there's basically three types here. One is Drillthrough. We're going to talk a lot about that today. Another one is the report page tooltip. You saw that in action already in the short demo a minute ago. Meaning that you, in addition to the default tooltip on a visual, you can basically show a whole report page instead. And the third one, slightly less known, is slicer synchronization. So if you use slicers on one page, you can synchronize that slicer with a similar slicer on another page, which is nice, because if you, like in our demo, if you click year to date and you go to another page, if you would have another page, it is nice to see that same selection of year to date there as well. So these are the three types of interactivity in Power BI reports. And before we go deeper on what interactivity really is and how it works, it's good to spend some time on a very important topic in Power BI, which is filters.
Yes, before I go to filters, I would like to add a little bit about interaction.
Oh, you have something to add. Okay.
A little bit more about it. Why is it interaction between pages? Well, if I use something like Drillthrough, I'll change to another page without maybe not noticing it, but you change between pages. And the interaction means that everything you have set on that filter will go through. The same is for a reports page tooltip. That's not the same page, it's another page. If you do a slicer synchronization, the slicers on both pages will be in the same state when you select the slicer, but you still stay on the same page. So looking at a drill through means you go to another page. Going to a report page tooltips means that you use information from another page into your page. And a slide synchronization means that you are just synchronizing something which you don't see any, because you only see it when you change to the other page. So the interaction between pages is not only those three things, but it's also three different ways of getting your data to where you want to see in your visualization. So, having said that one.
Are there any questions? I see a lot of activity in the chat. I didn't have time to read through it all. Are there any questions you need to spend time on?
Okay, there is one question from Fernando. He's saying how I struggle. I'm just reading what he wrote. I struggle how to define department to drill through in one visual, but not for another. But when selecting a drill through for the one page, it applies to every visual in that page, correct?
That's an interesting question. We will come back to that later on.
Okay.
Yes.
We will talk about how drill through works. I will try to get back to this question at that point.
Okay, so I think apart from that, there is just one comment by Fernando himself. He said a big card with a summarized value and comparison would increase the value of this dashboard, in my opinion. That's what he's saying. So maybe we can discuss that later.
Thank you, Fernando. It's
Sure.
always well. This is quite an important point, because in designing a report, and when you talk to your clients or the users of your report, it is very important to to think about two things. One is the interactivity. So you will want to provide the possibility for the user to actually interact with the report and dive deeper based on the first insights that you provide. And the other one is that you really should focus, and the nature of Power BI reports enables you and allows you to really focus on the important insight, the most important insights. So if you ask people, what do you want to know, then you will get a lot of answers, and a lot of answers are in the category nice to know. But if you ask, okay, but what is the insight that you are really going to take action on, that is typically the insight that you will want to place front and center in your report. So obviously what we show here is a demo report, just to be able to show some features. And card visuals are typically, well, you will see them later on, by the way. One drawback of card visuals is that you cannot really start interactions from a card visual. It's just that number, it's just there, and that's it. So you will want to create some combination of putting the most important insight front and center, which could be in a card visual, but you also want to provide a starting point to interactions to go deeper and analyze further.
Yes.
But thank you. Nice suggestion.
Right.
Okay.
So
Henk,
let's talk about filters in visual reports. One of the main big differences between Excel and Power BI is that Excel is a calculation program and Power BI is a filtering program. And meaning that changing from Excel to Power BI, that you need to change your mind setting. And that's one of the big thresholds of going from Excel to Power BI. It really is another way of looking at your numbers visualization and calculations. So basically, you need to understand that filters is something which happens on your data. So if I have a visualization and I set my teams let's say I take a table and my teams are in the column, and I got total sales. That's one calculation, and that calculation will calculate one column. What happens if I place that calculation within the visualization of that table? It will recalculate for every part, every team which stands in my column. It will recalculate and give me the number of that team. That means that is what DAX in practice will do. It's called dynamic analytics expression, and the dynamic is meant by using the filter. So if you're looking at a filter in your visualization, it really changes the context of your calculations. It really will recalculate the one DAX you create for every part you set in that filter. So looking at that way, you need to keep in mind that a DAX, which typically is a measure, and a measure is something like an aggregate which contains either a column or a table. It will never have a cell, that's Excel, but it always have a column or a table, and the filtering will be accordingly to what you set in there. So what really happens is that it will change that context. So if I place a filter, it will be recalculated and the results will be shown in your visualization. And that's a complete circle, and you don't realize it, but if you look at the little visualization in the bottom of this slide, you see that it has been filtered on a couple of things. For instance, in the axis, I use my teams, so that is one way of filtering. And I got a slicer with the year, and I got a slicer by time period. So on this visualization alone, there are 3 influences at this moment which will recalculate that number. It will take care of the years I selected, it will take of the period I select, and it will take of the teams I select. And that means that using a filter is easy to do, but on the back it's very complicated. And if you really want to make a good visualization, you need to be aware which filters are applied. And it might be that the results you are seeing now are influenced by something else outside of this visualization, which you don't see at all. That can be changed as well. It can be a visualization of a slices you cannot see at this moment, but are still running somewhere in the model, and that can also be not on that page. But it can also be that there is a filter placed in something like a DAX. So if I got a DAX and I would say, for instance, calculate my sales by this year, that means that I will only see in my results that year. Whatever year I select, the results are of that year. That means that filtering is happening on a lot of places. And to be able to create a good visualization, you need to keep in mind which filters are set and which DAX am I using. Because most of the time, you write DAX specifically for that kind of visualization. And that's one of the things you need to keep in mind, that it's not only dragging and dropping what you have in your on the right side of your visualization pane. No, it's also what's beneath it and what's interacting with that kind of things. Do you want to say something more about filters in visual reports?
Well, the only thing is I don't agree that you create DAX measures specifically for a visualization. Good design in DAX takes into account that it could be used in all kinds of visualizations, and you want to address that as much as possible.
I know what you mean. But
creating something that only works in one specific visualization is not very good design, I think. But anyway, I think you'd better go to the next slide, because I think you covered already some things from next slide.
We're not always agree with things, and writing a DAX specific for one visualization can be very handy. But let's say that's another discussion, and we'll get into that discussion. So what's a filter? Yeah, well, it's always reflected on one specific column in the model. You can add several filters on different columns which interact with each other, but one filter is always set on one specific column. It cannot be anything else. And you can explicit filters in the filter pane, you can use slicers, and you can use the visuals, as said before. Keep in mind that if you look at this picture, that filters on this page is product is all. And you could say that's not a filter, because it's all. And yes, all is also a kind of filter. There is a specific DAX function called all, which gives you the possibility to enable to disable all kinds of filters on a specific column or table. But all is also a filter pane. It will calculate the total of. So if I got a DAX which sums a column, and I don't have a slicer, it will sum the complete column. So if I put a slicer on 2017, as in this example, my calculation will only be on the rows that are connected to that 2017 year. So also everything you see is a filter. Everything is handled as being a filter, even if it's all. Yes? No? Next slide.
Next.
So, this is one of the things I really have a little bit of problem of. You can view all the visuals through the funnel icon. So you got your funnel icon, and you can click on it, and you see all the affected filters on that visual.
Yeah, you don't even have to click it, huh? It's just there. If you hover over it, you will see that.
Yeah. It's custom tooltip. I always click on it, but right. There can be more filters on the same column at once. Yes, that's what we said. As you can see here is 2019 and not 2017. Again, it's on the same column. And filters coming from visuals from outside are not included in here. So if I got something like a visual, and I click on that visual, and I click, for instance, the year 2018, this visualization will be recalculated 2018, but it will not be placed in this funnel. And why?
No, you're wrong.
Am I wrong?
It is, yes. What you do? So what you don't see here is filters coming from within the visual, so like things that are put on an axis within a chart or something.
Oh, that's, yes.
That is not shown, but if you click on a different visual, then you will see that here.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Right. Okay. And well, now I'm getting a little bit red.
Never mind. So we'll skip. We'll go into DAX later on, but as you have filters both at the visual visualization layer, and in the analytical model, you will see that that you will have DAX counterparts to this as well. So to detect a filter on a column, in DAX you can use the isFiltered or has one filter function, and to detect filters coming from within the visual. There's a fairly new, well, it's not that new anymore, by the way, but there's this is in scope function that you can use to detect which level in a drill hierarchy you're looking at. So if you want to use that information in a DAX calculation, you can do that.
We will come on later with it, and we use later on is cross-filtered in a DAX, which is also one of those DAXs when you can be detected whether there is a filter or not. Yeah. Okay, that's nice. Right. So, what's all about interaction? Interaction is actually I'm going to filter, and you have a drill down, which goes to another level of hierarchy. So one of the things which you need to keep in mind if you create a model and you want to drill down to the lowest level, then it means that you need to have the data on that lowest level. One of the things I don't like a cube so much is that it gives me an aggregated number, and I'm not able to down drill below that aggregated number, because that's then the lowest hierarchical level I have. So one of the basic principles, if you want to have a good visualization, is that get as much detailed information as possible. So if I add in something like from a financial system, I want to have all transactions on a ledger level, not, let's say, aggregated to one of the levels I have, for instance, in my P&L, but I want to have all my transactions, because then I'm able to drill down to that level I want to see. And one of the basic things I think you need to do on the first level connection is try to connect as low as possible to the raw data, or a view that contains all the data you want to have in your database. It really doesn't matter too much if it's a large number of data. In Excel, I'm bound to 1 million rows because of the limitation I got in the page. And if I want to make a nice calculation on more than 60, 70,000 rows, Excel becomes a little bit sluggish. So Power BI doesn't.
Let's stop talking about Excel. Let's go back to.
I always drift away. But keep in mind that if you want to see everything, get it from the lowest level.
Okay, so basically, what is important to understand is that all the interactivity in a Power BI report comes down to adding or changing the filters. So we're not going to read this all. You have already read it probably. But if you think about it, this is all about taking some filter and applying it somewhere else. Now, for the rest of this session, we're going to dive into Drillthrough, what Drillthrough does, what the issues with Drillthrough are, and how to address those issues. So looking at the definition of Drillthrough, well, you probably know how to create a Drillthrough page, right? You just add fields to that Drillthrough, the Drillthrough fields in that particular pane. And what it does, looking at it from the perspective of filters, there are basically two things. There's a condition that has to be met, and there's an action to be taken. And the condition is that for any of the fields that you add as a Drillthrough filter, the drill through is available, becomes available when there is a filter coming from within the visual. So the field has to be on the axis of a chart or the row on a table or something, and that filter must select exactly one value. So if you have something with multiple values, it will not be available. And if you have that particular filter, then that filter is applied to the drill through page. By the way, discarding all of the existing filters on the drill through fields that you may have there. But that filter is applied, and then the page is shown, which is exactly what you expect it to do. Now, you also know that there is this keep all filters option that you can turn on or off, what that does is, if you turn that on, then Power BI will look at all the other filters that are active for the data point where you start your interaction from, and apply all those filters also to the drill through page. So you will get a whole bunch of filters that are applied to that other page, and then it will be shown. Now, coming back to the question asked earlier by Fernando, this means that if you put a specific field in as a drill through filter on that drill through page, the drill through will be available in each data point in the report, wherever you are, where that condition is met. So there is a filter from within the visual, and that selects exactly one value. And that is sometimes an issue, because you may want to have, okay, on this visual I want to make a drill through on that field to page 1, and on another visual I want to create a drill through on the same field but to another page, for instance. And that is not easy to do, because in both situations the same conditions are true. So you would get both of the drill through options there. If someone has a genius solution to that, I would be happy to hear that. One solution that I have used a couple of times, it's kind of an ugly trick, really, but is to have an exact copy of that field in the same table. So if you would have, for instance, an employee table in your model with a team column, you could have another team column with exactly the same data, with a slightly different name, of course. And then you would be able to have two different drill through pages using the different teams columns as drill through filters, and then that would allow you to have a bit more control over which drill through is available. But it's kind of shaky, if you ask me. Now, a couple of other options. Something to add, Hank? No, nothing to add. Okay.
Not at the moment. No.
Yeah, we have to think about the time also. So, a couple of other options, a bit less known here, is that you can also use a measure as a drill through field. And if you do that, you will notice that the keep all filter option is on and disabled, so you cannot change that. And if you do that, then the drill through to that page is available for every data point that uses that measure. So where that measure is used, you can drill through to the drill through page. Well, it makes sense that keep all filters is on, because there's no other filter that comes naturally from that situation. So Power BI just takes all the filters there and applies them to the other page. And the second, the other option here it has taken me some time to actually understand what it does, because you can use any field, any column in the model, and say, okay, we allow drill through when summarized. The default option is when used as a category, which is what we talked about. And if you say use it summarized, then you can do drill through whenever that column is used in an aggregated manner in a visual. And here as well, you will see that the keep all filters option is on. But this is a bad practice. Why? Because it is best practice to use explicit measures for all of your values, and not to just drag and drop fields from the model into the values of a visual. Because using explicit measures allows you to, or gives you a lot more control on what measure is really used and the logic used there. So in all but the most simple models, just dragging a field from the model to a visualization as a value, as an aggregated value, is not will not return the right results.
Not only the right results, it's also something on stay in control with your DEXs. If you drag a column into the value section of a visualization, it will create something like a sum or an average DEX behind the scenes, and you don't have control on what's on it. And we like to have everything in control. The moment Microsoft is going to think for me, it's always a bit difficult, because my thinking is always a bit different. Shall we go to the next page?
Yes, we want to start talking about the issues that come with drill through interactions. But before that, one thing about slicer syncing, I already mentioned this option. It's kind of a strange type of interaction, because this is, well, the exception to the rule that all interaction is about applying filters. When you synchronize a slicer with another page, what really happens is that you create a copy of that slicer visual to the other page, and you can choose whether that copy should be visible or not. And then the selections in both slicers are kept in sync, which sounds very nice, and there are situations where this comes in really handy and is really user-friendly to do it like this. But there is an issue with the combination of synchronizing slicers and using drill throughs. We spend the next slide on this, because if you think about what happens, if you have a slicer on page 1, and that slicer, as we know now, there comes a filter from that from a selection in that slicer. Now, if you do a drill through to another page with the keep all filters setting on, then the filter coming from that slicer is also propagated to the drill through page. Now that means that in that page there's nothing to choose anymore on that on the column that slicer was on. So you can say, okay, that's nice, I do a drill through, and I synchronize a slicer to that drill through page. Well, you will have a slicer with exactly one option, being the option that was there on the first page. The combination of a synced slicer and the drill through with keep all filters is problematic. Yeah, one glaring omission from the drill through options in Power BI is something like keep all filters except from synced slicers. That would be ideal. That would allow you to actually do a drill through with keep all filters, but not having that fixed filter on the slicer column. But we don't have that, so so these two are a bit problematic in combination with each other. Now, you could ask yourself, okay, then don't use keep all filters. Well, that is an option in some cases, and we will dive into that. But before that, I think we will show a little bit more about Drillthroughs in the demo.
Yes, let's go to the demo. But
all right,
before going to
and I see a question: can we demo the Drillthrough and Sync Slicer combination?
Yeah, the question was.
Let me think about that. We may be able to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's go.
But let's first do the
yes. Stay on the space a little bit. For me, as said, if I have at this moment I have a drill through page, so I will not use sync slicers that are synced on that same page. That's the bottom line to say, because that's a waste of your space at the moment. Right, let's do a little bit of a demo over here, a drill through. So here we are back on our model, and let's see if we can find drill throughs. Most of the times, you know, if you hover over a column, and I can right click it over here, and then I can have my drill throughs. And we've got a couple of drill throughs coming over here. You can see all kinds of sales by all kinds of filtering levels I want to have. As you can see, I don't have to click on it. At the moment I hover over a column, he knows which my filter settings are from that visualization, and I can use it here. And for instance, I can go by sales by customer type. And here we go. So here's my sales by customer type. That's not too much. As you can see, I got a reseller and a direct customer. And right click, I can drill through again, and then I could say, okay, my sales by city. And then I have my sales by city based on the fact that I'm coming from my previous two pages. So the filters in over here are basically, and I can drill through here too. So if I do it by customer, I go to customer. And you can see this is now sales cost margin by customer. But keep in mind that looking at this point over here, I have now drilled through by a couple of pages, and all those pages sets a filter. So what I'm looking here is something which is based on, it's not my sales by customer, it's sales by customer filtered by products, filtered by countries. So this is really a lot of filtering going on to this single point. As you can see, it really is a quick way of getting from down drilling to all kinds of points. And looking at this way, I can just go back to the starting page. And this is what it starts. So as you can see, I had 3 pages with all kinds of filters. Let's do it again, but then keep in mind what our filtering are. Let's go like this, drill through, and let's now look sales by employee. So now I have set a filter on employees. And now I'll take my Grittle Harris, and I do a drill through to my products. I'm looking through the month I selected, through the employee what I selected, and now I'm looking at what she has done in the sales. So there is really more than sales by product over here. There are a whole bunch of filters sitting on this. And that's one of the things you need to keep in mind. Looking at these pages, the pages are basically looking the same. They have the same kind of visualizations, but it's the filtering which changes this. And within the end, we're going to discover how to find out what did I filter in it. Because if I drill through a couple of times, and I can drill through from this one too, then I'll take March as starting point and I take a drill through. And then I do my March by customer type. We had that one, and March direct customer, and going to my pay level. So going from this to that means that I just click here, and I'm now looking at completely different things than I did by my first drill through, although it still says it's my sales by pay level.
And basically, this is something that is provides a lot of analytics capabilities to the user of Report, right? To be able to just go through all the data in any way possible, which is nice.
Which is nice. So it's very compressed with a lot of detailed information. And what we need to know now a little bit further, if we go on, if you look at the drill through and the basic things of a drill through, then it's good to know what have I done. Because if I click somewhere and I'm just 2 or 3 drill rounds deeper, then I need to know what did I do. So later on, we'll show you how to give information on this drill through, what was filtered on it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I can switch to my screen for a bit, because there was a question to demo this drill through and sync slicer issue. So while you were demoing, I built this.
Right.
While you are switching, I would like to make a comment.
Yes.
When you are creating the drill through pages, instead of saying sales by pay level or whatever, sales by city or sales by customer or sales by product type, can we have something like add some dynamic titles, like using DAX? If this is selected, if you can use those is filtered and those kind of DAX functions, and then add dynamic titles. That way the customers will know what exactly was selected. So for example, you have drill through by Americas, so you can capture that in the Americas, and then Americas, so that way it will, I think, make the report more readable for the customer. Just a comment I wanted to make.
Yes, you are.
Shall I respond on that, Indira? Shall I respond on that?
You're absolutely right. And this is something like we have done on the first page. Like you see, I think you see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So like on this first page, we have this dynamic title, which is nice. And you could do something similar when doing a drill through, and actually it makes sense to do that. But what we will see is that if you have quite a lot of drill throughs, it becomes really complicated to fit everything in that title. So we will present you a different approach to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what I did in the meantime is create let me see. We have it. There we go. Another drill through page was simply synchronize the 2 slices that we have on the first page, and one visual, because it's nice to have something. So if we go, and by the way, you can see here on the right that I used the sales measure as a drill through field. So keep all filters is on by default. Now, if we go here, that means then that we can do a drill through from here to that page 1. Yeah? Now you see that I selected 2019 and year to date, and the same slices are on the other page. And if we go to page 1, you will see that I only have the things that I already selected in the slicer. So and if you go to the filter pop-up on the visual, you will see that now I have actually 2 slicers on the time period column, and 2 identical filters on the year column as well, plus the other one that I already had from the filter pane. So this is the issue that I was talking about. This also shows you that although this filter pop-up is really nice to have, it's not always very convenient to use on a bit more elaborate report, because as you see, you will get a lot of duplicate filters in view as well. All right, Henk, can you switch back to your screen, please?
One thing,
or do you want to add something here?
While you are there, we had a question in the YouTube channel asking about how did you build that slicer of period, year to date, and your values changing. Probably asking about how did you use that parameter table pattern. If you can explain a little bit on that.
I don't know if I get the question really.
I'll get the question. I got it, Reza.
Okay.
What we use over here, if you go to the slicer, and then you're talking about the slicer of the time period. Is that what you are asking? Yeah.
Oh.
So what happens over here is that we have a little table over here, and in that table there are just only this notation, and it also has a number. And the number which is in over here, it will be 1, 2, and 4, not 3. But
Okay.
that means that if you look at our tables, we have a little table over here, and here you are, and you can see that's the code over here, and this is what we call a steering table. And one of the things that you can do is that if you add this one to the slicer, and you make a measure which sums the code. And I think it will be somewhere in here. Will it be? Yes. Then what we basically do is that we sum the time period code, and that means if I select one of the one of those items, say by period, that's the first one. The result of that sum will be 1. If I select the second one, the sum will be 2. And if I select the third one, it will be 4. And what means over here that this DEX, which is a switch, and we talk a little bit later about switch as well, it will select one of our measures. So if it's 1, it's the basic cell, and the basic cell is nothing else than sum a column. If you select 2, I want that basic cell, but then by a total year to date. And if I select the third one, which gives me the result, then it will do a calculate the same sales, but then for the last 12 months. And using this kind of DAX means that I can create a little slicer, which then changes by using the slicer the DEX I need to have to create that kind of visualization. So is that enough answer, Reza? Do you understand what's happening?
I guess that's an answer. It's maybe a bit quick, but this is not a DAX session primarily. So yeah, but it's actually a nice way to add some dynamic behavior to a report.
Yes, in that.
But don't use it too much, because if you have multiple layers of this, and I have had reports where we had time period selection, we had currency selection because this was a multinational customer, we had some other things, and if you keep stacking that, then you risk problems with performance of your report. So use this with care.
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the slides because.
Shall I take over then?
Yes.
Somewhere. Okay, here we go. So this was our demo, and we're now heading towards our drill through. So what really happens over here is that if you have a drill through pages, then you go to another page. You don't see it, but we go to another page. And that means that there are several drill through pages. And that's what we showed you in the demo. You got one level. So if you look at the demo, we had a button which has a drill through to one page. And if you use your right click on a visualization, and then you see a list of all kinds of drill through pages. And all those drill through pages are connected to each other. And one of the really hard things is that you cannot really design these navigation paths, because if you create such a page and you give access to that page by defining that drill through page, it means that it doesn't matter where you come from to enter that page. You can always go to the page. So if I go it by customers, I go to the page, but I can also, as you could see, do it by countries entering that page. So you can create it, but the navigation is much more harder to design. And you can better say, as long as I have it, all kinds of combinations are possible to get those multiple pages. Really, I think using those drill through makes your model the most versatile model you can ever build, because it has so much ways to find answers you really can't recall, and it's all based on that one calculation you have made. It's the sales we have over here, and depending on the drill through pages, all kinds of filters will be applied on that number. And one of the most fascinating things I think of Power BI is the fact that it will recalculate all those filter settings extremely fast, giving you max insights in what you really want to see. Yes, so the next slide will be, okay, I have a drill through daisy chain, and what can I expect from that? Well, as you can see, and we talked about it, so we can really keep it not too much. So if I select one drill through and I got to the other one, my filters from the first drill through will be held in the second one. So if I go to a category, what will my view be? Well, one of the things we think you need to keep in mind with this, if you look at this kind of things, the conclusion will be that you need to keep all filters on, and that is, I think we'll say it's mandatory. We had a discussion about it because Michiel says in some ways it's not always mandatory, but I think that you should always keep all filters on, because if you don't do that, you lose track of your starting point. What happens from a starting point? Where do I go to? So keep all filters on.
It really depends. Can you go back one slide for a moment? Previous slide, because so the question, what you see exactly in the third page depends on the type of drill through that you set. Right. So if that drill through on category is keep all filters, then you will view results for Team Americas 1 and category furniture. If your drill through is set without keep all filters, then you will look at category furniture for all teams across the world. And the issue is that the user of the report cannot see what type of drill through is used here. But typically, as Henk says, when I go when I view a specific team, and then I do another drill through to something else, my general expectation would be that I will get a more detailed view on the view that I already had. So, and that means that indeed you will need to use keep all filters.
Yes.
And then you may go back to the on the slide. And then we come back to why. So this is actually showing you that keep all filters is a well, the more common option really, and that slicer syncing is problematic. Yeah. So having multiple or many drill through interactions in your report will probably lead to a situation that you don't want to use slicer syncing at all.
Yes. So, right. Now, the issue is, and that was Indira asked too, how do I keep track of what is shown in the report with what I'm looking at? And to be honest, keep in mind that we said keep all filters on. And that means the more I go into this daisy chain of drill throughs, at the end, I got a bunch of filter sets and I really don't know which I'm looking for. So the next thing we want to do is to solve this issue. And we will do that in the demo for a moment. Yes, so go back to the demo. Here's our demo. And let's see if we are able to do some drill throughs. So I'll take this one. Michiel, do you have a specific entry point? What do you want to see?
Well, try category first. Why not?
Try category first. That's the category. All right, here I'm in the category. And shall we now continue with bikes?
Yeah.
And what do we want to see with bikes?
Well, show me, what shall we do? Show me county.
County. This one.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's a lot of. That's nice.
This is U.S. states.
Yes. As far as I can see.
Plus Canadian. What's that called in Canada? Also states? I don't know. Territories.
Territories.
Let's do another one.
British
Columbia, drill through to
British Columbia.
Well, customers, why not? Customer?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
To customer, for instance.
Customer. This one.
In Canada. Thank you.
Customer. Yes. So here are our customers. Okay. So now we have drilled through a couple of things. And what are we looking at? Anybody can recall what we have done? Well, if you will put it in your header, well, then it will be a very small font type you need to have because we have done a lot of things. So we have invented a little button over here. It looks like a text button, but it's not a text button at all. But if I'm hovering over it, I got a custom tooltip, which tells me what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at Division Americas, Teams Americas 1. I got a couple of employees selected. Pay labels are all, countries are all, but my counties are British Columbia. My cities are, as you can see, all, and there are 10 shown, but there are 18 in total. I got all customers, I got all my retail people, and my customers I've selected are, in fact, everyone is standing there, and there are 464 in total. As you can see below, the products are bikes, and within the bikes, I got 60 other of the categories are bikes, and my products are 60 in total. So having something like this means that if I drill through, for instance, for now to something like, let's say this one, and drill through countries, for instance, this one. And if then I say, well, I'm now looking at Canada, and what I'm looking at, you can see now that my countries are all countries. My counties are still British Columbia because I haven't changed it, and my city is Vancouver because I started in Vancouver. So as you can see, this pop-up will instantly be recalculated if I change my level. So if I go back 2 levels like this and this one, and what I'm looking here, you can see that it will be recalculated directly to all the kinds of things you have. What we like to do in the last part of this session is to show you how to create this pop-up. So Indira, is this something which is the answer to your question?
Yeah, my answer is well done.
Okay.
Thank you. So this is for to the regular user. This is much more understandable than a list of filters, because filters are still quite a typical or a technical thing, right? So
what happens is that on every drill through page we have this view, and let's see if we can look at the view and do something with that. Here we are. The next one.
oh, you just did that.
What do
Okay.
we do?
Now
Yes.
let's talk about how to do this.
Yeah. Right. So
Okay.
what
Now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So well, you understand that this is a report page tooltip. So we're not really going into that. But we know that when we show a report page tooltip, then we take all the filters that are active on the point where we call for the tooltip. We take all these filters and we apply them to the tooltip page. So that is what we need to do, and then there's basically three things we have to do. Is we have to create something that shows the selected items, like in this slide you see a list of cities. And by the way, we don't show all of them, as you see. We show a list and then we say, okay, it's 49 cities in total. It wouldn't really make sense to have them all listed, let alone 1,684 customers. You wouldn't like that anyway. So we want to do something to show that. Well, we would have to create a report page tooltip. We're not going to talk about that. And we want to have something where we can actually have that panel show up. We'll call it a pop-up location. So how do I get a tooltip on a piece of text? So let's go for the selected items first. And now, oh, did we change that order, Henk?
No, we didn't change
Okay.
that order.
Okay, we'll spoil the surprise first. So
yeah.
So
select items.
What?
This is what this was we discussed this morning.
Oh, okay. I'm a bit confused here.
Yeah, it's early in the morning. I know. Let's continue.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Let's. Okay. We'll drill down from that report page, tooltip page, to what is in there. So basically, what is in there is this list of items. And as you see, we have selected a number of items that we show here, which are basically columns in the model, like countries, counties, cities, customer types, retail types, etc. Now, you may already know this, but one beautiful way to have this is to use a matrix visual with no rows and no columns. We can have multiple measures in the matrix visual. And there is an option under the values formatting that says show multiple values from multiple measures on rows instead of in columns, which is the default. Now, if you do that, you get something like what we show here. But it means also that we have to have measures, DAX measures, that will provide our selected items. And what we want to do is show all. So for instance, like we have here all retail types. If you didn't make any selection there, you just say, okay, you select all. If we we also could say, okay, we want to show a list of customers or list of items. Like here, customers. Well, I didn't select 1,684 customers by hand, I selected something else, which caused my customers to be filtered somehow. For countries, for instance, probably I selected Canada. And really, it doesn't matter what I selected. This is what I'm looking at. Okay, so let's go into a little bit of DAX code here.
Yes, but I still
starting to really starts getting excited here. Exciting.
Yes, but before you get too excited,
I'm starting to get excited.
Yes, I know. But before changing it, keep in mind that this is a hierarchical selection. So you want to see if there's no filter set, then it's all. That's first. And the second one is, well, if it's not all, then can I see if it's selected an item where the filter is set? And if that's not true, then we go to the last one. Then we show not all items because we don't have enough space for it, and we will look if it's a bit less for it.
Yeah.
But keep in mind that there is something like a hierarchy in how you watch at those points. And now we go to the DAX, and then Michiel can just get out of his brains for it, because here we are. This is the measure.
DAX is nice, DAX is cool. So this is the typical DAX measure that is used to populate one of the items, in this case the employees list. As you see, it's quite it's a number of lines of code here, and we will go through these step by step. If this looks scary, it really is not. But let's see how this breaks down. Yeah,
that's what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Step by step, first one.
Yeah. Go to the next slide.
The first thing is we start with a switch. So what does a switch do?
Go to the next slide, please, Henk.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So if you have done something in DAX, you probably know the switch function, or at least you know the if function, and switch is an extended if. And the basic use of switch is you start with something that you want to evaluate, and then you list the possible options. Kind of like the measure for time period selection that I showed earlier. A somewhat lesser known possibility is to use a very simple value as the first argument here, and this is true. So what this switch function now does is it has this value true, and now it goes through the list of possible options, and the first item that is equal to the first one, so the first item that is true, that result is returned. So in this case, if A is true, switch returns result A and doesn't care about the other options anymore. If A is false, then we try B. If B is true, then we return result B. And if B is also false, then we get the result else instead. Yes. Okay, so it's nice to have this, and this makes things a bit more flexible because you can have full DAX expressions as A and B here, and that is what we're going to do. So if we go to the next slide, Henk, then we have option A here. So the if then is for your convenience. This is not there in the code, but this is what switch checks. So if not is cross-filtered employee full name is true, then the result is a text all employees. By the way, one other thing to learn here is that it's perfectly fine to have a measure that returns text. That is also something that is not typically done much, but it's perfectly possible. So what is the condition here? And I say is cross-filtered employee full name. So I'm looking at the full name column, and we talked shortly about is filtered function. Is filtered function returns true if there is a filter on that column full name here. Is cross-filtered returns true if there is another filter in the model that causes the full name column to be filtered somehow. With the definition of, okay, we're not showing all the values for full name. So for instance, if another column in the employee table would be team, and I select Team Americas 1, then full name would be cross-filtered, but would not be filtered. Okay, so if we made some selection somewhere that limits the list of employees to employee names to somewhat less than everything, then this is true, and not is cross-filtered is then
the other way around.
It's the opposite. So
yes.
if we don't see any restriction on full names, then the result is all employees.
Yes.
Makes sense, I think.
Yes.
Okay, now the other one, it's a little bit more complicated. So if we have a number of names for employees, and the distinct functions that you see on top there returns the unique list of values for full name. And remember, now we know that we don't see all the employee names because we only get to this one if the first option is false. So this is really the second option, the B option, if you will. And what we do is we count the number of unique names for employees. Yeah, and we do that with count rows distinct. If full name would be a number, you could also use the distinct count function. And if we say, okay, if it's if we have more than 10 names, then we only want to show the first 10, and we do that by the function concatenate_x. Now concatenate_x takes a table, and for each row in the table it takes something, and that something for all rows that is concatenated with a specific separator if you want to. So what is our list that we take to concatenate? Well, it's our list of 10 employees. Now we do this very simply. We're saying, okay, the same list of employee names. Take the first 10 of those by full name, so in alphabetical order, basically. So that's what the top N function here does. And then, so that provides us with a list of 10 employee names. And those employee names we concatenate with a semicolon in between. And if we have done that, then a concatenate_x function is finished. And then we add something else. We say and others, and then we put the full number of employee names there as well. So then we'll say, okay, this is Anna and Albert and another 8 and others, and between parentheses the total number of employee names there.
Yes.
Okay.
So
now,
right.
Next one. That's the last one probably. So if we have less than 10, because this is the third option or the else option. So if we're not looking at all and we're not looking at more than 10, then we just say, okay, give us, well, whatever number of employees names you have, and concatenate them in the same way. Yeah. So yes. that is basically the breakdown of the scary DAX measure that you saw before. And it's up to you if you want to do this. It's up to you to use is cross-filtered or is filtered, and it really depends on how you want to work with that. When I look at our example, I think on customer, we use the is cross filtered because there we have a list of customers, and in total it was 1684. So that tells me that I've used is cross filtered there. If you would use is filtered there, it would only show customers if you have really selected a customer. Yes. Okay, so but it's up to you to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the other one. So we can create a page looking containing all this information. Now, how to make that visible on the report page? Well, there's probably a number of ways to do that, but the simple trick here is, well, you want to have a visual to do that, and I used a tree map visual for that because tree map is square, so that is easy, and I don't want it to look like a chart. So we do a tree map visual with no groups and no details. So we have basically one block, and we can use a category label to show something within that block, and that means that we would rename the measure that we use, and it's really not relevant what measure you use because it's just one value. Do I need to show this or not?
Yes, I think it's best that we just switch to your Power BI desktop and then show how it works.
Yeah.
Just one thing, we have something around like about 10 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we're wrapping up. So actually our timing is pretty much perfect, Reza.
There's one question.
Yeah.
There's one question. What is the reason if just count remaining employees in the count under others? Under others, what is the reason? Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. If you Henk, can you show the complete measure here?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So actually, the last one, you could say that is the most important one because what you really want to show is the list of items that are selected. But if anything is selected, then you want to show the list of selected items. But if there are too many selected items, you don't want to show all, so what we do in this switch is we take the special cases first. So first one is, okay, if we don't have any selection on this column, we say all employees. Yeah, that's the first one in line 3 here. The second option is, okay, if we do have a selection on this column, but it's a lot, yeah, and here we chose 10. You can choose 5 or 2 or whatever number you like. So the whole thing between line 4 and line 12 says, okay, then we show 10 and we say, and there's more. Yeah? So, and indeed, if you use a select 20, then 10 will display, and in others there will be others. Well, between parentheses, in this case, we say, well, in total it's 20. And that is because if you show a list of 10 employee names, and you say plus 35 others, okay, how many employees am I looking at? Then I have to count those 10 names to know the total number. So that's why I say here, in total, it would be 20. Okay, but it's important to notice that line 13 in this measure, you will only get there if the condition in line 3 and the condition in line 4 both are false.
So you got a filter.
One of these is true, then you will get those.
Yeah. So you got a filter with less than 10 items. That's the point. If you look at this one, it is filtered, and it is less than 10, that means then we show every employee from that list of within the 10. That can be 1, that can be 2, that can be 9, that can be 10, but that's the end. If it's more than 10 in the filter settings getting back, then it will be the second one, and then you will have the first 10 shown with a total of 11. So the distinction between the second and the third is the number of rows that will be returned by the filter.
Right. Okay, in the interest of time, because I have a couple of minutes left, I'm going to share my screen once again.
Yes.
There. Yeah. Let me see, let me show this one. There we are. So here we have the tooltip. And now we're interested in this visual here. Yeah. Now, if you look at the visualizations pane, it is a tree map. Yeah. We have a value, and you see here that I renamed the measure used to what am I looking at. Yeah. So you can rename measures within the visual. So I use that. And the measure that I used, well, very simple. I create a very simple measure, returning the value 1 all the time. So it's basically to have something, but I could have used others as well. It doesn't really matter. So I rename my measure to what am I looking at, the text that I want to have here in the report. And now in the format options of the tree map visual here, I say I don't want any data labels. My data color, I set my data color to basically the background color, which is white here. So I don't see a box. I turn on the category label, and there you get the color of the text and the font and the size of the text. And of course, the most important thing here is that we have the tooltip option, and we say, okay, this is a report page tooltip, and this is my report tooltip page. Yeah. So this is what makes the tooltip work. And basically, that's
can you show?
It's really simple if you think about it.
Can you show that page? The report page, the tooltip page.
Yes, where is it? Here it is.
There one.
There's one.
So here it's built up, and if you just check one of those, this one, you can see that what do we have? We have our values over here, and if you look at the values of the countries, something like that.
Yeah. So these are all measures, and again, I have renamed my measures because sorry for that. Let's go back here. Yeah. So I renamed my measures, but you could also give your measure and
can you show the filter reports over here because hold on.
What?
No, I was hoping that you would show the DAX you have created, because then we should see the same DAX we have created.
Yeah, well, DAX is really here, believe me.
Yes, precies. Exactly. So
there it is. Never show DAX in the report view, by the way. There we go.
And this one is,
yes. Yeah, so it's really this one, and it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and yeah.
Where are we? What are we showing now? Shall we wrap up a little bit by sharing this one? This is my screen, and this is where we're looking for.
The only thing left is a thank you slide, probably.
Yes, that's what's left. So thank you.
There it is.
Last slide of it. Are there any questions left?
No more questions.
This is silence. Yes.
Great session. Yeah.
We hope we didn't smash you too much with all our things of it.
It was it was a fantastic session. We got a lot of attendees actually, like about 1890 online in this Teams session and about 1890 through YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, Twitter. So it was a great turnout.
Great, thank you very much for that. If we wrap it up, the most important thing of visualization is filtering. Not the calculation, but filtering. And keep in mind that if you really want to get Power BI Pro, you need to think in filtering, not in calculations. So, do you have to say anything else, Michiel?
No, I want to thank you all for bearing with us for 2 hours. I know that being in an online session for 2 hours is not an easy task. So kudos to you all. Despite this being 2 hours, I think we'll hang around for a bit. And if anyone wants to ask other questions, please feel free to do so. If not, because in your place it's now I don't know, 9 o'clock in the evening, right?
9 o'clock, yes,
9 o'clock. So
Yes.
enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yes.
And,
Fantastic.
Great.
Thank you
Next time.
for the great presentation. Thank
and
you
next,
for
next time we hope to be in person in New Zealand. That would be great.
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to have you in person here after COVID.
Yes! Yes! We like that.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
going to stop streaming, but the session, I mean, the Teams is still open if anyone has any questions and things.